Well, good evening, everyone, and good morning to people who are calling in from India. I'm Raju Rajagopal of Hindus for Human Rights. It gives me great pleasure this afternoon, a beautiful afternoon where we would rather be somewhere else. Appreciate all of you coming here to welcome you all to tonight's Desh Videsh Conversation, Speaking Across the Divide. The topic for tonight is Mirages of Victory, SB 403 Unpacked. Tonight, our esteemed guests, all of whom are here in the room, will explore the significance and status of California's bill on banning caste discrimination. This event is the result of Americans Against Caste Discrimination, AACD, which was formed recently to not only support the passage of SB 403, but to carry on the fight for anti-caste discrimination bills throughout the United States. Some of the key members of AACD, including Ambedkar King Study Circle, Ambedkar International Center, Sri Guru Ravidas communities in various parts of California are here today, and I would like to give them all a shout out. Thank you for coming. Before we start tonight, however, I would like to take a moment to express our sadness at the passing of a young man, Milind Makwana, whom many of us met in Sacramento and Cupertino, as he passionately made a case against SB 403. Unfortunately, we heard the news that he passed away after the Cupertino hearing. So as members of AACD, we wish to convey our condolences to the family and friends of Milind. This is the seventh in the Desh Videsh Conversations, with the earlier ones focusing on the Citizenship Amendment Act, the UAPA, caste reservations, and Kashmir, and the most recent one on the state of Uttar Pradesh, where Sandeep Pandey from India was visiting here. For the uninitiated on SB 403, if I may, I would like to start off with a quick summary of where SB 403 stands today. Please bear with me as oops. So David, can you enable screen sharing?
Try now, Raju.
Yeah, I'm unable to share the screen, or you can make me a host and I'll share the screen. Okay. This is a very brief highlight of what this bill is all about for those that have not been involved. In February, Senator Aisha Wahab introduced this bill to ban caste discrimination in California, and the bill was passed by the Senate, California Senate, and in this form, and I've just highlighted a few things so you get a quick idea. It was titled Discrimination on the Basis of Caste, and then it sought to amend the UNRRA Civil Rights Act, which already has close to 15 categories of potential discrimination. You can see some of them here: sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, disability, medical condition, so forth. So what this bill did basically said, we want to add caste to those 15 categories. So it'll be the 16th category. and that it would change the law in relation to public schools, in relation to employment, in relation to housing. So all of those various clauses in the law would now add caste. So that was passed by the California Senate. Now the bill went to, after that, the bill went to the Assembly. And the first step in the Assembly is the Judiciary Committee, which met on July 5th. And what happened at that meeting, with several amendments, the title was changed back to ancestry, removing the word caste from the title. And essentially what it did is, rather than caste being a distinct category, the 16th category, it added caste under ancestry and explained what it meant in terms of exactly how it would work. So what they did is basically replace the word caste with ancestry and left all the other things, saying on the basis of ancestry, there will be no discrimination in housing, employment, etc., etc. So in effect, the argument made was, as long as we define caste and put it under ancestry, it has the same effect as having caste as a distinct category. So that's the argument made, and they provided some legal arguments as to why they're the same. So they went through and defined what ancestry is, defined what caste is. So for the first time, there's an official definition of caste in this bill that is now going to the full assembly. So there are two sides to where we go from here. There may be attempts by some of the assembly members to entirely remove caste from this bill, which would make a caste discrimination bill without the word caste being mentioned. That's one scenario. The other scenario is there will be attempts to go back to, or at least an effort to emphasize that there are certain deficiencies in having caste being defined under ancestry. So what we're here today is to hear four distinguished panelists share their views about these various thoughts about what the law means. So let me stop sharing. Now, all of this is available on the website, but I just wanted to set the stage for that. So hope that gives you a good overview. Now, but before I introduce them, a few housekeeping items. You're a small group, but yet I think it's important to make this known. When the Q&A time comes, please write your questions on the index cards that's on the floor. Pass them on to me. If you're on Zoom, please use the Q&A feature. There is no chat session here, and we will take up your questions at the end of all the speeches by all the remarks by the panelists. Please keep your questions short to the topic, and please address it to a specific panelist. Also, please, no commentaries or personal comments. Anyone violating these rules, we'll ask them to leave the room. After our guests have spoken, we will take up questions both from Zoom and from your cards. And at the end of the session, Zoom participants will see a quick survey to get your feedback on the webinar and possibly what future topics we might want to take up. Clearly, one of the topics that's not on the list that you see is this whole discussion of Uniform Civil Code that has been renewed recently by the Prime Minister making statements about UCC. It's a very important topic that we need to cover. So we might have the next Desh Videsh focusing on the UCC. So friends, without much further delay, let me introduce our panelists. If you could please come forward, and Roja, you may want to come this way because you're speaking first. Dr. Roja Singh is the founder of Dalit Solidarity Forum, one of the oldest Dalit organizations in the US. She's assistant professor at St. John Fisher University in New Jersey, where she specializes in women's and gender studies. Tonight, she will share some of her own experiences on caste biases and her critique of SB 403 as it stands today. Ram Kumar, who goes next, is a graduate of IIT Delhi, and he's the current president of Ambedkar International Center, headquartered in Maryland. He is in the high-tech field in Silicon Valley and he will share his experiences and observations on why SB 403 is needed to prevent caste biases in the workplace. Ajay Kumar is visiting us from Kerala, and he's the founder of a group called Rights, which is located in Kerala, which has been working with women from marginalized communities, especially, my apologies for that, I'll shut off my phone after this, particularly Dalit women, in creating employment in crafts work, especially using bamboo as a source material. His NGO work started years ago, working with Narmada Bachao Andolan, particularly with Mela Patkar. And he has recently founded a new organization which branches out into other areas of his passion, including environment. Vinod Kumar, please. Vinod Kumarji is the president of the Sri Guru Ravidas Sabha in Union City. He's been fighting passionately for equal rights for the Ravidasya community and has been working tirelessly for the passage of SB 403. He will share a little bit of history of his community and the discrimination they faced both historically in India as well as here. One anecdote comes to my mind, Vinod Kumarji, it was about nearly 10, 12, 15 years ago that my good friend Martin McQuan, who runs an organization, he used to be the one of the top Dalit activists in Gujarat. He came to the Bay Area to visit me and give a speech at UC Berkeley. And somebody mentioned the Ravidasya community. He had heard of Ravidasya community, he had not heard of them, how they are in California. So we were invited to one of the Gurdwaras, I think in Fresno or somewhere. I don't remember. Yeah, that was my first discovery of the origin of the Ravidasya community, where they were, why they had separate places of worship from mainstream Gurdwaras, and today, I don't know what the situation is today, but the very fact that you're fighting for equal rights indicates to me that there is still discrimination going on. So I just wanted to add that. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm pleased to hand the mic to Roja.
Thank you so much, Raju. Yes. I've always admired Raju deeply for his consistent commitment to so many justice issues, especially the anti-caste movement.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So thank you again for inviting me here, HFHR Hindus for Human Rights. It's been a great pleasure and privilege to be working with this great community of people. Before I start, I do want to place the land acknowledgement of the Olon Indians who were in this Bay Area, about 300,000 in number, and 200 tribes who were totally wiped out, erased, right, by the colonial process. So we want to pay our respects to the ancestral land here. I want to start off by saying I have definitely been deeply impacted by the fact that after I started expressing my identity as a Dalit woman, right? Before that, life was beautiful, fun, everything. It still is fun because I meet amazing people like you all here. But it really changed my life, and I learned a lot of lessons. A little boy about 8 years old in 1931 went and took a dip in a temple pond because he was Dalit, but he was forbidden to go into the temple pond, but he did that. And he came out of the pond dripping wet, and then he saw this little boy holding a puppy in his hand. And he's a lover of animals, so he touched the puppy, and the person who was holding the puppy was a caste person. And this little boy was a Dalit little boy. So when his hand accidentally touched the caste boy, he was beaten brutally by the boy and the bystanders there. And that little boy was my father, and that happened in 1931. Now, if you fast forward 2023, right, an 8-year-old boy is brutally beaten because he dared to drink water from a water pot in his school that was meant for all the caste children. Right? So this has not changed. right? In so many years that has gone by. In 1996, I was questioned in New York City Asia Society after a speech that I gave by a woman who was very proud to identify herself as a caste privileged woman. And she asked me this question, how did you get here? So my ancestors were branded as polluted and traitors, and in a popularized human creation story that we are some kind of accidental dust, right? So how did you get here? You're not supposed to transgress your boundaries. You're not supposed to be here. So casteism is deep. And when intertwined with colorism, patriarchy, power, control, it strikes viciously. I have personally experienced casteism both in India and here from friends, quote unquote, neighbors, in-laws, people in my church, fellow students, my former husband, a leader in the Episcopal Church, the very institution of that church, and more. 28 years after our married life together, I was in intercaste marriage. So my former husband told me that because I was a Dalit, he tolerated a lot in this marriage. He didn't even say it. He said it, but he also put it in an email. So this goes to show you that caste can just be with you, right? Sleeping with you, eating with you, and it is so insidious and so pretentious in its nature. So predictably, every time after I pointed to the unscientific and non-biological nature of caste, that it's a man-made invention, it has always been about money, right? About money. And so this man-made invention still is all about money. It is the earliest documented machinery of capitalism, and we cannot deny that. Now, all these things happened to me, over decades in my 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. But repetitive patterns, right, which in sociology we call as a sociological imagination, the repetitive patterns of anger, microaggression, and threats and hatred hurled at me right after any talks that I would give, writings that is published, my book, receiving any kind of recognition, then that was always followed by this kind of microaggressive attitudes and words. So these policies and laws that Raju just explained to us, they're important because we need these as security for those targeted specifically because of a caste identity. So I'll come back to this again, but I'm not being targeted because I'm the granddaughter of Mr. Ponnusamy, right? But I'm being targeted because in the irritant eyes of a caste eye, a cultural eye, I am a Dalit who's not supposed to be here. So why policies, laws against caste matter? So I strongly believe that lived experiences of people are sacred, right? They're sacred based on my understanding of the complex layers of the intersectionality, how caste, class, gender, religion, tradition, all that plays a role in my own life, in my friends, relatives, and all those being discriminated against based on caste, whether in India or US or anywhere else. All of us have the right to realize our dreams that we have in order to move to a different country. And we think, right, we're leaving behind all the caste-based discriminations, but unfortunately, it's not so. However, I think you would agree with me, most of you would agree with me, that caste is a myth, right? So this myth of caste identity was a social construction even before the word caste was created. So all other communities who are identified as deviant to a power-based genealogy are products of these cultural constructions. So we know that they are dictated by dominant cultural discourses, definitions, narratives, and so on. But the unfortunate thing is that these narratives got lodged into, right, what was later on identified as Hinduism. And so if you are a positivist, you would probably definitely agree, right, that experience is the foundation of human knowledge, right? So we cannot dismiss experience, real life experiences. So according to the rule of what we call as phenomenalism, scientists should only observe and record what they actually perceive through human experience, right? So bereft of human experience, nothing makes sense, nothing at all. So the phenomenon of the caste experience or the outcast experience, as whether Dalit, Ambedkarite, Bahujan, or woman, for whatever reason we are being targeted, wherever our self-identification might take us, we own that experience, right? We own our brokenness and we testify with authority to our truth telling. So the pain is real, the experiences are real, the cause and effect are definitely real, but the narrative that some people are impure and some are pure and some deserve this, some don't deserve this, all those kinds of attitudes, especially the fact that some people are here due to karma, right, is a social lie. And that is the caste fantasy, right? So we cannot over abstractify pain. And when we do that, when we do that, it goes against the very essence of our humanity, of who we are meant to be, right? So we lose subjectivity, we lose accountability to ourselves as well. And so we seize another's humanity and human dignity. So there are not just touchables and untouchables when we talk about caste, right? There are observables and unobservables. Things that are, plain in sight, things that are hidden when we talk about discrimination and violence. So this is why we cannot have ambiguous terms such as ancestry replacing the word caste that the Senate had passed. Ambiguity cannot have a place in law. Everything needs to be clear, right? So spade should be named a spade, not thrown under some ambiguous category of a garden utensil or something like that, because a spade can be used to kill or to till, right? So we cannot leave room for fumbling on the part of the defendant or a plaintiff. So language should be clear and distinct. This is even comparable to how an ambulance can arrive late at a site if the place on the location is not mentioned properly. We had this experience a couple days ago. So casteism is definitely a methodical social condition, right? But I want to move on to say why all of us matter in the anti-caste movement, right? So it's not just people who are being marginalized, right? It is all of us are needed here. And I was very moved and touched by a testimony that I documented from a friend of mine who's here today, Nitya. Thank you for sharing this. Nitya acknowledged that she was born into a privileged Brahmin community. And this is her testimony. She says, I've been a feminist since the time I remember, but hadn't realized how closely tied patriarchy and casteism are until my mid-30s. I not only started seeing the huge blind spot I had because of the privileges I enjoyed, but also saw for the first time how caste identity had subconsciously, but in very significant, substantial ways, played into my own choices. My choices of career, marriage, friendships, and even hobbies, in ways that I hadn't previously perceived. I had avoided many paths that I had a natural inclination or liking for because I had never questioned the hierarchical structure that a casteist mindset promotes. And I had always gone with the option that was higher on some imagined ladder. And she says, I realized I'd been under the influence of an oppressive ideology all my life, and I wanted out. I want to see reality clearly. I refuse to play into the hands of these forces anymore. I fight these forces because not doing anything will mean I go with the flow. I want to see a world where everyone can do what feels right for them, and I choose what feels right for me, truth and justice. Now, this is a powerful testimony, right? Because born into a caste privileged community, to be able to call oneself into that awakening. And that is a great example for us. Now, the other problem that we face is how people say being anti-caste is Hinduphobia, right? So caste may have originated, right, in these documents that have been lodged in Hinduism, but we know that it is not true. Because I just told you that my ex-husband, who was a leader in the Episcopal Church, made this casteist comment. And there are churches in India and in the United States where they are predominantly Dalit communities and predominantly caste communities, right? So this caste feeling is very, very high and rigid among Christian communities. And so let's not think that being, anti-caste is being Hinduphobic. That's not really true. But what we are trying to say is that we need to be anti-justice phobic. That's what we need to do, right? So we know that hating, murdering, raping, all of that is wrong. So it boils down to simply who's on the side of right and who's on the side of wrong, right? So that's very simple for us to think about it that way. So collective work is what we need to be doing together, and building is as important, right? Building this community is as important as dismantling patriarchal authoritarian structures. So when we stand together, we cannot ignore the fact that there are so many communities in the world that are going through violence. And as we speak, our friends in Manipur, we need to remember what they're going through, that horrific violence as we speak. So whatever it may be, there are always ways in which people will find a reason to other us, right? To oppress us. The other example I want to give you why being anti-caste is not Hinduphobia is to remind you that historical and political process of othering somebody, right? Treating somebody as less than human or dehumanizing somebody is deeply rooted in the Christian colonial tradition as well. Now, I'm a baptized Christian, but I do always don't miss an opportunity to critique what is problematic with the Christian paradigm, right? So this othering of the other is central to the Christian colonial paradigm, and we see this documented in the doctrine of discovery in the papal bull in 1493, when Pope Alexander VI, right, blessed people like Christopher Columbus and so many others to go out, right, and conquer the native communities, basically blessing genocide, right, in the name of religion. So we see this happening over and over again in so many religious narratives where women are put down, right, where people are identified, even slavery, right, even slavery was justified in the name of it being biblical. Now, Jesus's mission took a U-turn when a Syrophoenician woman actually questioned him, right? Because she wanted Jesus to come and heal her child, but Jesus actually used these words. He says, he cannot give to dogs what is meant for children, because this woman comes from an outcast community. So this is an indication for us to say that it is very wrong, and we're actually doing ourselves a disservice when we say that being anti-caste is being Hinduphobic, and that is really wrong. Now, the next point I want to move on to is that let's liberate our identities, right? So the word Dalit means broken people, and you all know that. And dal is so essential to our everyday consumption, right? It is especially for non-meat eaters, it's the primary source of protein. So whenever we engage with dal, whether it's by eating or cooking or touching it, we need to remember that there is a brokenness, right? So Dalit is broken people. So there is a brokenness within each of us, and this is not to dismiss the brokenness that is caused among the marginalized communities by the oppressive communities. I'm not saying this to dismiss it, but we also need to be active agents of change by recognizing that we also carry brokenness within us. So when we adapt that method of self-identification, I think definitely we can claim ourselves to be compassionate, kind human beings, right? Because, and the vice versa is, as a Dalit individual, as an Ambedkarite, as a Bahujan, whoever we are, if we are going to use our marginalized identity for exclusionary or self-isolation purposes, then there is no freeing, right? Unless we free ourselves, we cannot be open to trusting and to overcome suspicion of other communities as we identify them to be as well. So then we get into this whole repetition of the caste paradigm that you are not worthy to address rights of the marginalized, right? So nobody owns that right. So this is to bring us to a place of performative liberation where we can congregate around the value of personalism. Now, this term is being popularized now, where we can value the personhood, the unique dignity of a person, and that we can easily do. Why is that so hard to do, right? So to me, adapting a way of life of an earthy humanness, where it is an unconditional ethics of care for everybody and everything in this world, right? Where identification with another is a mode to claim human dignity and relationships. And if we cannot bear witness to our own compassion, if we are going to deny that we are kind, compassionate people, then there is a problem. There's an underlying problem. So if we don't do it for ourselves, who else will? So that's really important for us. So today we come across all caste boundaries to erase those lines that mark those differences in our language, names, and our daily ways of being. We can do that. These are all doable things, right? Because we know that we are complicit to a lot of these things. Now, caste and ancestry. So what is the problem here, right? So very simple. One is real, one is imagined, right? So we cannot deviate from the rule of nominalism. It is unscientific to dismiss experiences of people and knowledge that is based on something unreal, right, cannot be placed under something that is as real as ancestry. Now, if I am attacked for being German, then clearly I can say, oh, this is my ancestral identity. But we cannot pin an idea on an ancestral board. It cannot be backed by any empirical research. I refuse to accept that I'm born into a subspecies of humankind branded as ancestrally polluted. Placing caste under ancestry just makes us believe in our own inadequacy of reason and intelligence. And I think we can do better than that. That is, sociologically, anthropologically, politically, biologically, it is an incorrect term, a weak term to use here. There is no territory involved. There is no nationality involved. There is no ethnicity or race involved. What we have here are irrational value judgments and normative statements which cannot translate as ancestry. We will be doing a disservice to those who are truly and factually discriminated against because of ancestry. So to place such an incorrect and misleading information into a legal document etched as law is unconscionable. And impose polluted or polluting identity on one's own people from the same country cannot be discrimination based on ancestry, because indignity is not ancestral property. None of us want that. As an umbrella term, ancestry, ancestors, ancestral often indicate a general connection to place, people, or things in the past. But genetically speaking, any eighth grader will agree that the ancestors are the individuals from whom they are biologically descended, and ancestry is information about those ancestors and their relationship to you. So one cannot use ancestry.com to figure out our caste. There is a reason for that, but we are all in denial of that, right? So certain persons are in elected positions because we trust in your intelligent, independent thought process and not a dependent misinformation, because that is an easier route to take. In a nuclear arms deal, people are very careful to look at the commas and the periods and so on. In the same way, the terminology in a caste bill deserves the same attention and seriousness, because if we do not do our best now, we are going to settle for a second best terminology, and we will face the same situation as the gun violence that is going on today. And that was brought up by one of our critiques in one of the news channels. I'll come to that later. But caste is a distinct category of oppression. It is not a link to oppression. So just as how genealogical ancestry, genetic similarity, all these are incorrectly and frequently they are conflated, we cannot add caste to that conflation. Already there is confusion there. So we're not even at the level of a genetic similarity or even territory or demography, where validity and level of uncertainty is difficult to test. And if the assumed premise should be instated, then what happens to children from intercaste marriages such as mine? Those who have been here for over 5 generations, what happens to them? So ancestry categories can be arbitrary and therefore problematic. If we cannot detach ourselves from subjective connections and give in to objective interpretations and claim that experiences are not valid or not enough, then we are complicit in the dissemination of a targeted kind of a knowledge production. So therefore, we should be very careful and acknowledge the fact that whatever is based on assumptions cannot be knowledge, and anything that is not based on knowledge can only be, you can fill in the blanks, right? So we have these kinds of empirical statistical evidence to show us how caste violence is impacting people. So it is not that we don't have the evidence, we do, because people often say, why caste law in the United States? We don't have evidence, but we do, right? So there is a lot that several organizations have taken on to collecting data, including equality labs and so on. But there is always a naysayer, right, for everything. And I think the gentleman in the video, in a news video, says, Well, look at the United States. Gun laws make sense because mass shootings are happening and we have evidence. Now, I wish we didn't have to, quote that as an evidence. If as a nation here we paid attention, right, to this problem from the beginning, we wouldn't be facing this mass shooting. Now, we don't want to sit and wait, right? If we don't pass this prevention law now, we don't want to sit and wait for a day when we are going to face a similar situation, right? Where things are going to go in an uncontrolled manner. So we simply cannot and will not understand the pain of lived experiences of those we have traditionally othered if we don't own our own pain. And most often what happens in a patriarchal system is that we don't own our pain, right? So we don't even recognize the pain of people within our reach, like our children, our spouses, our parents. So when we are running away from that with people we love or we're supposed to love, then how are we going to understand the pain or acknowledge the pain of somebody else? So it starts from within us, and it should start from within us. So everything is connected. So if a person cannot break out of patriarchal norms, chances are they will not break out of caste norms. They will not break out of racial norms. They will not break out of homophobic norms, right? So these are all connected. So when we normalize this pattern of taking certain communities for granted as a domestic situation, then what we're doing is we're extending a continuum of that normalization everywhere we go. Doesn't matter where we go. So therefore, humankind in its totality does not constitute a single society which always and everywhere involves in the same manner. What exists in reality are tribes, nations, cities, and so on. But caste is an imagined, fabricated thing. So therefore, it is not reality. And we cannot really accept this distinct category, which is an imagined category, but the cause and effects of that are real, right? So therefore, the ambiguity is very problematic here. And we all know that caste doesn't lie just on social factors and so on, but it also lies on economic factors, gender factors, and so much more. So for our own sort of visual consumption pleasure, we do use capitalist, rules, or we totally ignore humanism in people because we want to honor capitalistic rules, right, of owning things and so on. But it is that same systemic principle that seeks to concretize these binary oppositions of who deserves what, who doesn't deserve this one is polluted, that one is pure, this is the insider, that is the outsider, and so on. So we cannot give in to that systemic principle. So our goal as not just residents of the state of California, but as responsible global citizens rallying around a unified science of life, where every single legitimate logical statement, policy, law, everything should be relatable directly to an experience. So if we are going to stand here and say, we are not going to support this bill because there is no evidence, then you're totally negating human experience. So this is the only way by which we can eliminate the ambiguity and the symbolization of the nature of caste. So caste is not concrete, but the nature of caste is. So I'm going to stop there and thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Roger. I'm Ram Kumar, please. Yours. We have a technical problem that several technical minds have not been able to resolve. So please bear with us. I've silenced everything on my phone and still busy. In fact, we'll give one more time, and we don't want to interrupt the flow of the event.
Maybe turn your Bluetooth off. Yeah, turn Bluetooth off on your phone.
Everything is off.
Bluetooth, yeah.
Bluetooth is off. Bluetooth is off. It's in airplane mode. I've turned on the WhatsApp.
No, your WhatsApp is logged in here. Now it will not go. It's done. It's taken care. Logged out.
Okay. Let me put it in full screen and you can, I'm sorry, Ramko, for the interruption. There you go. Yeah.
Good evening and good morning, Jai Bhim, everyone. It's an honor to take part in this very important conversation at a very crucial time when this very secretive, hidden but a powerful demon, caste, is being talked, discussed, showing some visibility, and also going to the state level for a law. It is really very important time. And thank you, Hindus for Human Rights, Mr. Raju, for arranging the event and giving us opportunity to express our opinion here. Some brief introduction. Hi, I am Ram Kumar. I represent Ambedkar International Center. We are a non-profit anti-caste human rights organization, and we represent a diversity of members across most of the states from different backgrounds: Hindus, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Sikhs, atheist, all are the integral part of our organization. So essentially, we are anti-caste human rights activists, and the calling just as the Dalit organization doesn't define our organization properly. Just wanted to correct here. Roja said that caste, is a man-made thing. It is, but it took me almost 20 years to recognize that. I was born in a village in Western UP in India. And what we knew that it is a God created thing, and we are born because we did something wrong in our past cases. And my identity was not my name, my caste, that this guy is the son of that particular guy or grandson of that guy. That's how it was. I remember my days when I used to go to school, take a bus going from the village to the nearby town. We go to the next village, bus passes, the road goes through the next village, bus will stop. People from so-called upper caste will enter the bus and ask that all the low caste people stand up, we will sit. And that's how years and years went there. But to us, it looks nominal. No, it's just the normal. It's God created punishment. We have been taught, I go to university for the masters. And that was the time of Mandal Commission. All kind of protest, all kind of riots were going on there. And I was a person going from the village seeking a future there. I was doing good in the school, college, everywhere. But I was not allowed to stay in the hostel in the university. That was my dream. That is a big library, multiple stories, so many books, and good hostel. I have good opportunity to make my career. My dad was trying hard to pay my fees, everything, so that I can make a career. But then this caste, it follows me. And they tag me that, no, there's a Mandal Commission time here. And you are not allowed. I did not do anything for the Mandal Commission, but I was kicked out of the university. And I had to live in a very small room for all my masters, where in graduation, where you feel, you learn so many things. You go to the library, make a good circle there, more discussion there. So I had to complete graduation like this one. And the first thing I did that, okay, once I got job, I moved to US. I don't belong to this caste system anymore. I went to the monks and took refuge in Buddhism. And here we are. But this caste identity, is not such a thing that it's a bag and suitcase that you take flight and you just leave it there and it doesn't come with you. That's how the Indian, if you belong to the India and you say it doesn't exist, you are lying. I will say it bluntly, that ignoring the existence of the caste is a big lie. And as our organization, myself, we are in strong support of the SB 403 because this is not a fictitious thing. It is a serious human right violation. And it's not like only from past few years, we are talking, some people started, creating some mileage and only few people know. It shows that how much traumatic it had been in beginning, that people were so much scared through this systemic violence, fear of the segregation, isolation, and the career. Nobody wanted to speak. And thanks to some of the few people or the John Doe who just came out, that's enough is enough. So that's where we stand, that this caste is not just a segregation or something issue we cite in the corporate. And because I have been working here from last almost 22 years, I would like to go through some of the things what I notice in the corporate world, the caste and its implication. Indian diaspora, most of Indian diaspora, I want to refer here because that's what I see, whether there is any discussion, protest, anything there. even though we call it South Asian, I see all the Indian diaspora and the same people coming and opposing it. And they say that it's unnecessarily profiling us, so we don't want this law. So I want to ask a question. The gender discrimination law happened, all the men are still around there, but what we see that women are out without fear. They're representing all kind of spheres or job, all the places there. They feel more safe, and men are also not scared, So then what is the wrong? What is one discrimination versus another discrimination is superior or inferior here? You have to be honest, And some of them you say that no, it is giving a bad image to our diaspora because will be tagged as the racist and all that. Again, today it is the time of the internet, social media, and do a Google search that how many rapes, murders, loots, all kind of discrimination happened in last 1 week, last 1 month, or the last year. You will get numerous such things there that you will be ashamed. So this is not the thing that all these people who are talking, we need a caste-based discrimination law here. It is not that they have created or we have created. It is such a reality. Now we are speaking it out here, And a lot of the people who came out from the corporate world, I hear them a lot of time. They are worried, traumatized also, that if we ask for the law, we will be victimized at the workplaces there. And that is the reality, because as per my experience in the last 20 years, that 20 years is more than enough time to understand what is happening in the communities and the workplaces there. And especially in the recent years, where somehow because of the social media groups and all that, caste-based organization groups are becoming very visible. And when there is a caste-based group, then it is not religious anymore. Even within a religion, one caste versus other, there are groups there in the Bay Area, as I know, and most of you already know there. And if you see the job and the opening in the corporate world, how it works, most of the time, if there is an opening, it will be internal referrals. And the logic is that, we don't pay money to the recruiter, so it saves money, so it's good for the company. And yeah, definitely that is a good logic. It makes sense. But when it comes to the referral, whom are you going to refer? If you are casteist and you are part of the inner circle of your casteist, the group there. And that is the severe problem. It will be referred only from their own caste. That's where I'm worried. And it doesn't end here. Then let us say you escape that barrier also. Your resume goes to the HR and all that, and the screening people. And if there is some person like that there, it is filtered out again. And that is the reality. You see, the Google, most of the time, what I know, what hear from the people, they look this last name, what may be the caste. I hear it very often, when the resume comes there. And it doesn't end here. Let us say somehow the person entered, doing good because, everybody is not to that level. The caste is bad person, otherwise system will collapse. But even few people like that, they're bad enough, the discrimination, even if it is like few people out of 1,000, is not acceptable. So a person goes, in the workplace, does all the good work there, expects that, the career will be better. But then the peer reviews come. Most of the companies, they do like this one, that it will be a team and peer review. And if in your peer review, if there's a person who doesn't like the caste, the person is always in the trauma, in the fear, working there, that my peer review will go bad there. He will never speak, even if something goes wrong there. And it is not because he is scared to talk about the work. It is because he is scared about a casteist person there, that he will intentionally give you bad review there and your career will collapse here. So these are some of the realities, in the corporate world that goes on there. And it's like general practice, but if things are even more worse than that, This is what I see from past couple of years. Any hallway lunchtime meeting, most of the time the talks are about, the political leader versus all that, And those are the tricks to find out whether you are, their side or other side. And side doesn't mean, the political belief, no, which caste, because they will say, okay, you don't go to the satsang. Oh, you're talking as the Modi. There's some of the characteristics, not only these things. definitely you are from one of those lower caste there. So slowly, then your segregation, isolation, and discrimination at the work starts. That could be like hiding the information in the group where you are working. It doesn't only impact the person, but overall corporate, like the structure. But people don't care because such a biased, the internal thing in the people that they just ignore everything, but accept that the caste has to be superior. Their caste has to be superior. There has been many testimonies in recent years there. They have been documented and on the media, on the newspapers there about the corporate issues there. And I would like to recall few of them. So there was a girl, she told that she was slapped on the face and yelled caste slur and kicked out of the meeting because of her caste, that why she dare to talk, like this one. And she testified it, heard this myself, and that was published in the newspaper. There is another tech worker who said that once his peers came to know about the caste, that he's a low caste person, and he was hiding the caste, they were so mad on him. He was removed from the group and was sent back to the India. He lost the visa because, for H1B, if you don't have the job there, you don't have, any right here to live in this country. He was sent there. And then there were another corporate, there were hateful emails going on in the company with the derogatory remarks, hateful messages about, that the low caste versus upper caste, all that. And because there is no law, just removing the email and removing the person who is sending email is not enough because he already created an atmosphere, to create a fear or the depression among the people because it's a systemic depression that has been coming from the ages there. And if they say here in this country, it's the same thing there, where they will go there. So just taking some more points here. I would like to especially mention one of the hateful email propaganda that I received some of the mails last year, and we knows because we both of us, we talked that what we do there. There was a person, so who collected emails wherever he, could meet, whether at the office places there, some community gathering, all that. So he collected a lot of emails, and he started sending that don't hire SC, STs, and OBCs at your workplaces. These are not capable to do the job there. And he was writing even such a derogatory language that the girls from this community is coming on H1B survive on the prostitution. Such a shameful language this guy was writing. And I could expect that at least there will be someone, in the email recipients there, that they will say that, hey, this is wrong, hateful message should not be here. But few of them said that remove me from the email group, I don't want to receive. But no one said that it's wrong in this country. Hateful is illegal. Nobody, because it is assumed that it's normal, it's common. What is wrong in that one? And the people who are receiving the mails represented tech workers, HR managers, university professors, and he was sending this mail to everyone without any fear because there's no law, nothing there. And it is not just one person. So when I see his own family member, and lot many other people also on the email list there, and nobody is opposing, that means there's a serious fundamental propaganda going on here. And this guy was even mentioning the last names, that these are the last names and these are the caste, the lower caste and upper caste. So be careful. Kind of this thing there. I mean, how this can happen there? And there's no law, unless there's somebody's harmed, it will be like, no, it's nothing there. So those are the things, they are not just like chalta hai attitude, but those are serious things, we need a protection there. So this country, we are the immigrants from recent immigrants, but before that immigrants came from different part of the world. They had their own issue problems, and the laws of this country evolved so that they can also live, a safe and dignified life. And caste is a persecution. It is not just one identity and all that, there is a big persecution there. And now is the time that there should be law for this one, Ignoring this thing, no. I will directly say it's a bigotry, if you say caste doesn't exist, it's wrong. Everybody knows there is identity, and the identity was before your Aadhaar card or the social security, that was with you, and that decides your economic condition, your social place, your circle, everything there. And I don't care at the home what you practice there, it's not my matter. But what I care, what I don't agree is that at the workplace, I should not be discriminated I should be given equal opportunity. And that's what we need here. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening me.
Am I audible now? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure, and I'm really honored to be part of this magnificent panel and people who are sitting as audience. I am not really from an academic background. I'm also not from a law background. Whatever I'm going to speak next, how much time I have? Yeah, that's really a big time, because last 2 weeks when you and I was given 30 seconds to 2 minutes. 12 minutes is, I mean, it's really a luxury. Yes, very generous. Thank you very much. And I also not from a law background. So whatever I'm going to speak based on my experience as an activist about 24 around 24 years, somebody who tried to make a law into actions that in India, because I'm talking about Atrocities Act in Kerala, and I just try to compare with what should be a act that we probably need in a place like in US. As you know, I don't really want to go and explain the types of nature of atrocities that's happening in India, which probably many of you are aware of. But in terms of statistics, there are about 60,000 instances of atrocities committed against scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in India last year and 2 years back. And it's about 16,000 of them are against Dalit and Adivasi women, which is including murder, rape, and gruesome forms of rape and murder, and attempt to murder, dacoity, it's so on. Even though the statistics, the 60,000, if you put it into a crime clock, and there will be, every 6 minutes there is a crime happens somewhere in India against Dalit or Adivasis. Let me now switch into my experience. This was in 2006 to 2007 to 2009. I was part of a project supported by European Union on atrocities by the police. And I have documented documented in the sense, go to the field, record the statements, about 1,000 cases in 3 years, not me alone. There is a group of people working on it. And out of this 1,000 cases, almost 78% are the victims are Dalits in this case. And we have carried and pursuing these cases against the police, and not only the police, men in khaki, basically forest department and all so on, about till 2018, the long years. The project got over in 3 years, but we have to carry this, fight the cases in the court or different mechanisms in different places. And why, it's the last cases got over in 2018, I remember. Why I'm telling you this example is, it was too extremely difficult to get a case registered. Atrocities, registering a case itself very difficult. And if you registered somebody, inquiring in that case is another challenge. And when it's come to the charge sheet, you don't know what's going to happen. And so the thing is, the problem is there, the day when an atrocity committed, the system, I'm not talking about the government system, the societal system, the caste system, start working against the Dalit. The day one is start, you are lying. So all these 60,000, whatever number of the cases that we are talking about, have to face this reality that you are wrong. So we are fighting against this whole belief or this narrative created by the caste society that you are wrong. You are actually, misleading. You are, dishonoring the community. All these similar words you can find anywhere, against the campaign that's now going on here against the bill also. The point I'm making is, it's extremely, even though, as you all know that, Article 17 of the Indian Constitution ban untouchability. For the first time in the history, the untouchability become, illegal. Till then it was illegal. That was not enough. Then we had a Civil Rights Act in 1950s. That was not enough. Later on, it was in 1987 we find this. We enacted Atrocities Act, which, in my understanding, one of the best piece of legislation in India. This anti-caste legislation. Even though it's remain as one of the best piece of legislation when it's detailing everything, it's take a long time. When I was working, I started working in 20 years back on this particular law, the conviction rate was just about 1.5% or 2%. Now, over all these 2 decades later, it's just another 10 to 12%. So what the point I'm making is, it's not. We have to understand that it's not only having a law will not make big changes, but there are other options also we need to try. But a law is extremely important to that, give a kind of a protection and deterrence. So, having said that, I'm just come to the law that we are talking about. In India, so every action or every act that seems or remotely seems against upper caste, there'll be a vehement opposite narrative automatically start producing. It's kind of an automated system. So reservation, in 1950 we have reservations. The constitution came in power. That year itself, it was challenged in the Supreme Court. And that narrative, anti-reservation, started then itself, and it finally ended with the recent years that this government actually enacted the reservation for the upper caste. In fact, it was diluted, the entire idea of the reservation. Likewise, Atrocities Act also, from its beginning, there is a counter narrative keep on producing. There's a 4 cases that was, is very predominant among the social media and all sort of mediums, that these guys are filing 4 cases. That's a common narrative they produce, everywhere. So that's why, from a constable to a judge who are supposed to be enforce this law, believe that this is a wrong case in the beginning itself. So that was the challenge that we had back in India. But fortunately, you don't have that problem. That's a positive aspect that I've seen here having a law. But as Roja said, detailing is one of, or defining some of the words is key aspects of any law. For example, the Atrocities Act in India define whomever it may be. The law starts like that. It's whomever it may be. A person belongs to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. It's very clear. It is a law which protect scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and they listed a number of atrocities. The schedule of atrocities, about 30 atrocities, that this law will be protection for them. So likewise, the law that we are discussing here may not have that kind of detailing or definition, which I still think, because let us see it as a stepping stone. And it's a great, for me, it's a great political statement, which was started by Ambedkar himself long back, writing to League of Nations, then a letter in United Nations, to internationalize the caste discrimination. And there are, after Ambedkar, there are a lot of organizations in United Nations, and many places try to pursue, make it as an international issue. And to some extent, there are people won that battle, but this piece, pushing this piece of law in US, in different part of US and in other part of country, actually we made a kind of a very strong political statement. I'll take it in that way. In that way, it's great. It's a great stepping stone. There are things should be work on. I mean, for example, caste. I don't think the terminology, naming it as a caste bill or ancestry, even in both these terminologies doesn't make any big sense, because caste is a generic term which can be used anywhere. For example, the Brahmins in Kerala believe that, the Brahmins of Andhra believe that they are the best one. So they discriminate within the Brahmins, the other Brahmins. So they don't consider the Brahmins of Kerala as good people. So that's why we have the big temples in Kerala, the Brahmins brought from Andhra and other part, So if it just a caste in the bill, it may ended up with one Brahmin suing another Brahmin, saying that I am discriminated. You know what I'm saying? Or you can have another situation. I mean, that's not. I mean, among Brahmins, it won't happen, because they know how to protect their power. But certainly, how do you see in a situation a Chamar suing a Kurmi? That could happen. So we probably need to a little bit. I'm not very particular about using the caste. I'm not particular about using the ancestry. But I also want to make a point, when you make it international, we also need to adopt new terminologies. For example, the third committee, the third definition, the racial discrimination of United Nations actually use the word descent, which is in a way, family, ancestry, all come, because there are recently, and also it's not only about Dalits, a similar, and if you want to make your alliance little broaden, there are other communities also having the similar issues. Like, recently we have an alliance of people discriminated based on work and descent, which is not only from Dalits in South Asia. There are Hirathians from Mauritania, Burakus from Japan, and the Quilombolas from Brazil. I mean, that's all. I mean, if you want to broaden that term and making little more inclusive, there are possibilities. But I feel that this piece of legislation definitely make a point, and there are still avenues to be, we can work on. So that's my comment on the legislation. And finally, this is something, the caste being often, portrayed as an Dalit issue. You know, yes, of course, we are the one who actually facing the brunt of the problem of its manifestation, but I don't think it's not necessarily a Dalit issue. It is necessarily an upper caste issue. That's how I see caste. You know, why I tell you, many, I mean, this is basically, you know, if there is an audience or in the Zoom, somebody, you know, those who are believe that, you know, this law must be opposed or it was targeting Hindu, you know, Hindu phobia kind of narrative. I would like to say this kind of piece of legislation actually save you, save the upper caste, because the very definition of the caste, the simple definition, you know, there is a small group of people oppressing a large majority of people, unleashing violence. So to sustain that violence, that power, they keep on, you know, injecting violence on these people for generations. So in the process, upper caste become one of the most uncivilized population on earth. So uncultured, uncivilized, because they have been committing this crime for generation. So here you have an opportunity to overcome your intergenerational guilt of committing crime against humanity and work with those who are oppressed. So not only in India, not only in United States, everywhere, if the upper caste, the Hindus, should take up this opportunity to save your souls. We are anyway find a way out. Save your souls. We will be okay. We are discriminated. We are, yeah, that's fine. But this is a time, this is the last best, take it. I don't know what to say. I mean, with that note, I'm very serious about it. You know, it's there. I always feel these are poor souls. You know, the way they express things, you know, I don't feel that I'm also being Dalit's victim or whatever you call it. I'm also empowered to see things in a different way. So I feel these creatures, oh my God, you know, how do they even, they just kill, they just rape, they do, you know, it's all unimaginable crime against people, and they still they believe that they're humans. No way. Let us give them an opportunity to save their souls. And yeah, that's my final point. And I also would like to, this is a personal note. I do offer, if there is any, you know, I mean, this bill probably need a kind of more strategic advocacy efforts further. I'll definitely offer my service if when I'm required in online. I'm not living in USA, so definitely I'll do that. And I also, my name is Ajay Kumar. I'm from Kerala, and I represent an organization called Equitives. I'm a founder of Rights, but I don't want to, you know, usually founders die with the organization. So I don't want to do that. So I just left the organization and found Equitives. It's a new organization working on Dalits, Adivasis, and other marginalized on the issue of climate change, business and human rights, and urban governance. This is a new area. So anybody want to know about my organization, I have some brochures to share with you. And I also need your support. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Rajji and, Good evening, everybody. Let me see. Sorry. Good evening, everybody. So first of all, I would like to say thanks to Rajuji, ACD, and AIC to put this program together. The name of the program is Desh Videsh. So I think I feel like, you know, on this event, on this program, we can talk about this country, and also we can talk about our motherhood country. So today, Rajuji mentioned they never heard about Ravdasia community until 15 years ago. I just want to give you a little brief, about our community. How is called Ravdasiya. Shri Guru Ravidas Ji, he was born in 1377 in Banaras. And his profession, and he born in Chamar community. He fought for equality, and that time with all kind of a Brahminical system. That system that time was, think about what we are doing at this moment, still fighting against caste, and what was that time. He fought very hard to bring the equality. But unfortunately, this caste is one of ugly disease. It comes in the gene, and it's go with you when you die. That's what one of the bad curse this caste is. Sometime, if you guys notice, some people, they have so inferior complex because of caste, they change their names. Upper caste people, how they have their attitude, how it's built in their body, and think about how the lower caste people, they accept this thing and they live with the rest of their life. The new terminologies the people been using right now, they're trying to manipulate the caste, and they say all these categories come from his profession. But it's not that. If any new kids just born 5 minutes ago, if he born in the Jamar community, if he born in any Brahmin community, he's going to be called, he's going to be labeled that. It means it's not from the profession. Why our Ravdasiya community is kind of, very strong? Because our Guruji, he fought very hard to bring the equality, and he made the history. He became a guru of the Rajas, Maharajas, because he showed what his power was. We have 6 big temples in California. We have in Texas, we also have in New York. And it's a big community. But I'm surprised how the people don't know about this thing. Why? Because the gurus of lower caste not being, exposed, not being taught in their families, in their houses. That's why people do not know about him. Our first temple of Shri Guru Ravidas Ji Sabha started in 1983 in Pittsburgh. Then 87 in Sacramento. Then we had in Fresno, 2004. Another one in Selma, Fresno. Then we have in the Bay Area right now, it's a big construction going on. So our community from Punjab, we are the follower of Shri Guru Granth Sahib. I'm just giving you the little story behind this so I can explain to you how we believe in equality and why we are kind of a little bit stronger than as compared to the other state people. Because we are the follower of Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Teaching of Guru Ravidas Ji Maharaj is in Guru Granth Sahib. So that falls under Sikh community. The caste is not only in Hindus, it's in all religions. It's in Hindus, Sikhs, Muslim, Christians. When we are in the Punjab, we also face caste in Punjab from other communities also. The dominant caste always try to, push down all the lower caste people, no matter which state you are. It's all depend, who are those people are. So now when this SB 403 came, some people are thinking, oh, how come, and try to provoke this Sikh community, why these people are standing with the Dalits? What is the strategy? What is the reason behind that? The teaching of our gurus, all Sikh gurus, And we have a 35 gurus in Guru Granth Sahib. The teaching of all those gurus are equality. The beauty of the Guru Granth Sahib is each page, each word, it teach you equality. Maybe some other Granths are not, doesn't have that. They teach something different. They maybe teach discrimination. So that's why when we were fighting for SB 403 to stop a caste discrimination with anybody, that's why all those Sikh temples, they listen to their heart and to their teachings of the gurus. That's why they stand along with us to make this Begumpura, to remove the caste, which their gurus, all the gurus tried to do that in the past, bring the equality. That's the reason they stand with us. But now some people, we experience in the past, like, 3-4 months, when every time we go any kind of hearing, we are being labeled Khalistani, right? What a poor and a cheap mentality of those people who doesn't understand that the caste is still in their blood, but try to divert the other people's mind to other side. They label Khalistani. Me and my wife and other folks were posted on Twitter with a lot of different labels. I feel very sorry for Milan Makwana. He was sitting third in my row next to me, and I see him. He was with his younger kids, But even after that, we came home. We had a lot of other events, a lot of big arguments with wrestling, a lot of big wrestling. But this program, nothing, everything was fine. We just came home, and some poor sick people, they put on Twitter that me and one of my other friend, they labeled that we push him on the ground and he died. Think how cheap and dirty mentality of these people are, they do not have any standard. They do not have any guts to fight for the right things. That's how they cheap, they born, that's how they work. As far as Ravdasiya community, why is they are that strong? We have a teaching of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. We have a teaching, we see our gurus, how they fight, and we have that guts to fight to remove the discrimination, of the caste. And we will continue to do that. There's nothing you get 100%, but we will continue fight until we protect each person. My brother Ajay, he just give a very good example, the atrocities back in India. A good human being should have a pain that no one should be discriminated. A good human being should have a pain that no one should be treated like this. But people are not good human beings. They close their eyes and they let things happen. I remember the day when there was a Hathras Kand happen. Hathras Kand happened, the poor girl was kind of, sanskar was happened, like, cremation was happened mid of the night without showing to their parents. We did protest for that should not happen. But there are other community also. Why they did not do the protest? Because they are such a dumb mentality people, those such a racist people, they do not have the pain for that. Right now we're talking about the Manipur. Is anybody doing protest? One of my brothers said they're going to do the protest on coming Sunday. How many upper caste people going to go there and fight for those? They don't have the heart. They don't have the pain. So now when we are doing SB 403, why the Sikhs stand with us? Because their teaching of the Gurus, their teaching of their Granths is telling no one should be discriminated. They stand with us and they say, okay, our ancestors, our grandparents, they have done some kind of discrimination with the Dalits, with other people, and which we want to stop now, and we should not happen. Why the other communities, upper caste community people cannot do the same exercise that our grandparents, our ancestors have done something like this in the past? Why we cannot stop now? We should stand. Oh, they should say simply, it should not happen to anybody, and we should stand and support this bill. Once this bill pass, it will minimize the cases from 100 to 5, because this category will be protected, and also it will bring the awareness to each employee of the company, and then there will be less cases. So please try to understand, in order to, instead of going against this bill, understand the pain which our community been suffering over thousands of years. And if you guys want to continue like this by saying, okay, what my kids gonna do? Think about the kids who've been suffering over the thousands of years and who they are still suffering. We are trying to, and the beauty of this bill is, if somebody from the lower caste discriminate to the upper caste, they will be protected. It's a both side win-win situation. But if we are a good human being, try to protect everybody. Why we can't do that? So Ramdasia community is kind of been around for a long time, and we will continue fight for this. We did a lot of work on the ground. We did karma all over California, from San Diego to Santa Cruz, each district office. Some of those, people are kind of backdoor poisoned, so they can change their decision. Let's see how much they can do. But we have no funds. We have no city official in from our community. But we have the law. We are in the law of America. We are in America, and where they want to protect every single person from each kind of discrimination. So that's the faith we have, and we will continue to fight for that. I hope my time is done, and thank you very much for listening. And one thing is for sure is, united we stand, divided we fall. This bill gonna be over in 2 months, no matter which direction it's gonna go. But one thing we learn, that if we unite, we can do a lot of stuff. And we made a very good, strong team during this process, and we did learn a lot of stuff. So please, let's think about the humanity, not about any individual religion or any kind of caste. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, Vinodji. And I want to thank all of you, Ram Kumar, Ajay, Roja, for your excellent observations. I learned a lot. I really learned a lot, even though I thought I was aware of what was going on in the area of caste. I think I learned a lot, and I'm sure people in the audience also feel that way. We're very grateful to you for spending the time with us.